Now call to order. This is a meeting that will review the PCOO budget. And I'd like to have to greet all my fellow senators here present, Senator Franklin Drilon, Senator Binay, Senator Marcos, uh, Senator Senator Tolentino was first, and Senator Marcos, Senator Binay, and then Senator Drilon. Let me just greet Secretary Martin Adenar and all the other folks from the PCOO. And let me ask the Committee Secretary Claire Olay to introduce the guests.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Joining us today from the Presidential Communications Operations Office, we have Secretary Jose Ruperto Martin Andanar, USEC Christian Ablan, USEC Lorraine Badoy, USEC George Apasible, USEC Marvin Gatpayat, USEC Edusha Mia Reyes Lucas, USEC Raquel Tobias, USEC Jose Joel C. Egco, ASEC Jusan Vincent Arsena, ASEC Joseph Lawrence Garcia, ASEC Florentino Loyola Jr., ASEC Omar Alexander Romero, ASEC Ryan Vincent Wood. From Apo Production Unit, we have Chairperson Michael Dalumpines. From the Bureau of Broadcast Services, we have Director Rizal Giovanni Aportadera Jr. and Deputy Director Joanne Marie C. Domingo. From the Bureau of Communications Services, we have Director Maria Florinda Princess Duque. From IBC 13, we have its President, Mr. Hexilon Alvarez, and General Manager Corazon Reboroso. From the National Printing Office, we have Director Francisco V. Valles Jr. and Attorney Rino Jeronimo Sagaral. From the News and Information Bureau, we have Director Virginia Agtay and Director Aldrin Fermin. From the People's Television Network, we have General Manager Catherine Chloe De Castro. From the Philippine Information Agency, we have Director General Ramon Waloping and Deputy Director General Benjamin Felipe. And from the Radio Television Malacanang, we have Executive Director Dennis Wilfred Pabalan. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Charlene, thank you very much. Let me just say a few words here. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or the PCO, serves as the premier arm of the executive branch in engaging and involving the citizenry and the mass media in order to facilitate the integration of policy and communications. The media forms and shapes our nation, and the quality and the kind of citizens that makes it respectable, knowledgeable citizenry, and respectable, knowledgeable citizenry who are advocates of democracy and liberty. Our nation needs a reliable and credible state media that reflects unbiased reporting as an integral part of journalistic ethics to empower our citizens and to provide forum for a respectful exchange of diverse views on relevant issues. With the foregoing, we call on Secretary Andanar to discuss the agency's 2022 budget. Go ahead, please, Secretary Andanar.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman Gordon, Senators Marcos, Binay, Senator Drilon, Senator Tolentino, magandang umaga po. I am Jose Roberto Martin Andanar, Secretary of the Presidential Communications Operations Office. Joining me in this budget hearing are the other officials of the PCOO and heads of our attached agencies, as mentioned by our Secretariat. Before we present the details of our proposed budget for fiscal year 2022, we prepared a short audio-visual presentation for a snapshot of the work that we do in PCOO for the past year. If the chair would allow us to play the AVP.
Please proceed.
Government communications has and will always play an integral role in making known the government services and programs to Filipinos here and abroad. As the premier communications arm of the government, the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, remains true to its mandate of providing accurate, timely, and relevant information to the public. The PCOO is also working continuously to amplify the programs and policies of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and the executive branch, as the administration leads the nation towards progress and delivers a more comfortable life for Filipinos. The PCOO has accomplished even more amidst these trying times when information is very much needed. Public service remains the top priority of Secretary Martin Andanar and the PCOO. Together with its attached agencies, the PCOO formulated new programs to cater to the needs of the people. The Laging Handa Information and Communications Campaign was launched in order to deliver information during times of disasters and other crises in the country. It has proven to be an effective communications platform during this pandemic as well. As such, the Network Briefing News Program and the Laging Handa Public Briefing were launched to provide the Filipino public with regular updates on the government's efforts and responses to address the COVID-19 situation and other pressing issues. Secretary Andanar also continues to fulfill his responsibilities as the Cabinet Officer for Regional Development and Security in Northern Mindanao Accords 10 and the designated Big Brother of Laguna Province in its fight against the impact of the pandemic. Our fight against disinformation through our Dismiss Disinformation campaign has helped keep the people informed about what fake news is and educated them on the effects of disinformation. Long before the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, the PCOO has initiated virtual pressers to connect local and international media with government officials and policymakers.
We didn't have this kind of tool in the past. We buy the news from other news agency or we pay people to go there. But with the PCOO, with this new platform that we've introduced us, the information is free.
And with the implementation of community quarantines, the PCOO has repurposed the virtual presser. It became the main government platform to inform the public on the government's programs and actions in response to the pandemic.
I would like to credit the PCOO for being the bridge sa mga mamamahayag at mga kinauukulang ahensya, hindi lamang ng pamahalaan, bagkos ay ng pribadong sektor.
Kasi alam naman natin na mahirap mag-cover, pumunta mismo sa labas. Kumbaga kahit nasa bahay, makakakuha kami ng diretsong sagot sa mga kinauukulan, sa mga tamang officials ng government. So, through the virtual presser, mas na-expound yung issue kasi yung resource persons, nagbibigay sila ng time.
The different virtual pressers, reporting tours, and other relevant programs initiated by the PCOO bridge gaps in information dissemination and allowed media to directly engage with relevant government agencies and its officials.
I joined the Malawi coverage in 2019. We got a lot of footages that we cannot cover normally. And we did a live broadcasting during our trip to the war zone. And we invite ASIC JV to join us to tell the Chinese audience about the progress of reconstruction of Malawi City, which was well received by the Chinese audience. That one is very nice.
We're now here in Malawi.
Pagdating sa mga ganitong uri ng storya, hindi ka naman basta-basta ikaw lang susugod, di ba, sa gera. So, napakahalaga na may assistance, napakahalaga na merong tulong from PCOO kung paano kami madadala doon. Kakaiba experience siya because, sumakay kami hindi sa isang typical commercial flight, kundi sa isang Philippine Air Force airplane. So with the help of PCO and Malacanang, mas nagkakaroon ng amplification kung ano ba yung navivision namin on our stories.
Through the Laging Handa docu-series created by the PCOO, the on-the-ground situation of our frontliners and healthcare workers, as well as the efforts of the government in fighting COVID-19 were showcased. Explainer videos called the Vaxplainer were also created to inform the public about the COVID-19 vaccines sourced directly from scientific and medical experts. This is to debunk all misconceptions about the vaccines and to encourage everyone to take part in the government's vaccination program. As digital platforms become more prominent and with the public mainly using online media as the main source of information, the PCOO has also maximized its digital and social media presence and assets by creating more digital content meant for informing the Filipinos. The PCOO is also working closely with the National Task Force on COVID-19 and the Interagency Task Force by providing coverage, media assistance, and technical support to disseminate much-needed information to the public about inoculations and other related events in battling the pandemic. The PCOO also strengthened its structural assets. It launched the Mindanao Media Hub in March 2021, which marked the start of the full operations of the PCOO and its attached agencies in the said state-of-the-art facility. The Mindanao Media Hub, a legacy project of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, serves as the main broadcast facility of the government in the Mindanao region and is envisioned to provide tailor-fitted content for the people of Mindanao. This year, the PCOO will also be constructing its first ever Government Communications Academy in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon, which will serve as a training hub for information officers of both national and local government agencies. Eventually, the Visayas Media Hub will also rise to serve as the main broadcast hub in the Visayas region and to answer the Visaya audience's need for content. Despite the challenges brought about by the pandemic, the PCOO, together with its attached agencies, continues to keep President Duterte accessible and visible to the people, much like he has always been for the past years. The PCOO, faithful to its mandate, has helped inform the people of the President's programs and policies, as well as his legacies to the Filipinos. This helped to keep them informed of the services and programs for them, as well as garnered high public trust and satisfaction ratings for the President. To show the strong will of the President in stopping terrorism in the country, the PCOO launched an anti-terrorism documentary which featured former rebels and the affected families of the soldiers who were killed during terrorist attacks. The PCOO is also engaged with the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea as a member in promoting the policies and undertakings of the Duterte administration. The PCOO has provided support to the communications campaign of the NTF-WPS and utilized its platforms such as the virtual presser to give the public truthful updates and information about the West Philippine Sea. The PCOO also continues to communicate the message of the President to the international audiences to promote our government policies abroad and forge new relationships with some foreign media entities. The commitment of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte against contractualization has also taken shape as more and more employees in PCOO were regularized with a total number of 50 plantilla positions for PCOO proper since 2018 to first quarter of 2021 and additional plantilla positions as well as under the Philippine Information Agency. The Freedom of Information program has made it easier for Filipinos to get access to public information and official records in offices within the executive branch.
Ang FOI ay isa tong mekanismo kung saan ang Pilipino ay maaaring makakuha ng impormasyon mula sa ating gobyerno. It builds trust. Kasi alam naman natin na malaki po ang distrust ng taong bayan sa gobyerno, and the FOI is a mechanism wherein it rebuilds that trust.
This is the centerpiece of President Duterte's platform on good governance and transparency.
Especially po during this pandemic, sobrang hirap po na mag-acquire ng mga legit true information and sources. Nagamit ko po yung EFOI, yung portal. So, mabilis lang siya. The information that you've requested will be given 2 to 3 days.
Kumigit kumulang mga 95 to almost 100,000 na ang natanggap natin na FOI request. Bumuo ng Project Management Office ang DTM, pati na rin ang PCOO sa ilalim po ng pamumunuan ni Secretary Martin Andanar, nag-oversee ng implementation ng FOI at tinutulungan natin ang libo-libo nating mga FOI officers na nagkalat sa lahat ng mga ahensya para matugunan nila ang mga tanong ng ating mga kababayan.
Amidst the pandemic, the PCOO never stopped doing its work and continues to accomplish and generate results. In 2020, the APO production unit garnered a revenue of more than 1 billion pesos, including more than 721 million pesos from the e-passport project with the Department of Foreign Affairs. It continues to help strengthen the high-security printing needs of various government agencies. The Bureau of Broadcast Services and the Philippine Broadcasting Service through Radyo Pilipinas, partnered with PCOO and PTV, have disseminated timely, relevant, and accurate information with regards to COVID-19 pandemic. This has helped many Filipinos to always be prepared and in the know about battling COVID-19. PBS has also upgraded its equipment and physical facilities, as well as improved its programming to attract more listeners.
Ang PBS po has embarked on a very ambitious program to rehabilitate yung mga gamit po natin. And as you can see also dito sa Philippine Broadcasting Service, we have now made procured equipment na masasabi po natin not only is it competitive, but also it is world-class.
The Bureau of Communication Services has produced a total of 94,880 printed information materials in 2020. The BCS has continuously proven to be globally competitive and resilient with its ISO 9001-2015 certification from the Worldwide Quality Assurance or WQA Limited. Aiming high and achieving results through our partnership with the IBC, we successfully aired numerous initiatives, programs, and other information and communication campaigns. As we continue to value educating the public, the PCOO with IBC and the Department of Education work together to deliver alternative learning modules over free TV and online through the Handang Isip, Handa Bukas program. In 2020, the News and Information Bureau has submitted 28,436 news stories covering all branches of the government and has been continuously releasing updates about the actions and engagements of the President. The Philippine News Agency under the News and Information Bureau strengthened its online presence by giving its website a new modern look and has regained reach, registering an upward trend of website visits.
Giving it a fresh look, plus content. Ibig sabihin, we serve the purpose.
The PCOO also created one of its new mechanisms in covering and disseminating news and informing the public through the integrated news team.
Meaning, pag integrated, share stories. Case in point na lang is sa probinsya. So pag walang PTV sa isang lugar pero PNA meron, yun na yung nag-cover. And then we share the stories. Kumbaga, we pooled our resources. Kumbaga, hindi competition. Nakakatuwa doon, it's the sharing among government media. That never happened before, I believe.
Together with the National Printing Office, safety measures against COVID-19 were implemented through the following. An increase in productivity was also recorded as new machines and equipment were acquired. Serving as the main public information arm, the Philippine Information Agency promoted government efforts through grassroots communications which disseminate and explain government policies and programs to the Filipino people.
Nandito kami ulit ngayon from the Philippine Information Agency ay nagbabalik dito sa Laguna para ipagpatuloy ang ating information campaign tungkol sa COVID-19 at ang mga programa pa ng national government na makakatulong sa panahong ito.
To support the fulfillment of its mandate, the PIA will have its new office buildings in Cordillera Administrative Region and Cagayan Valley. The PIA, with its more than 90 social media pages and on-ground communications, reaches all parts of the country to inform the citizenry. With utmost dedication, the People's Television Network Incorporated, or PTV, devoted 90% of its airtime to news, public affairs, and to support the different information programs and campaigns of the government and the President, particularly against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Even before the time of President Duterte, talagang nagkaroon na ng plano para i-modernize, so to speak, ang PTV. Natupad lamang ito noong time ni President Duterte. Bumili tayo ng mga equipment na state-of-the-art, in-upgrade natin ang ating mga studios, ang ating mga technical centers dito, and at the same time, pinalawak pa natin yung reach ng PTV. Nagtayo tayo ng mga transmitters, nagtayo tayo ng mga provincial stations, lalo na sa mga strategic points dito sa Philippines para lahat ng mga tao ay makakapanood ng PTV.
As the reliable and productive broadcast arm of the government, the Presidential Broadcast Staff, Radio Television Malacanang, has aired 1,999 live broadcasts on the President's press conferences, dialogues, special events, radio messages, provincial and foreign trips, among others, in 2020. Due to RTVM's efforts in live streaming the President's speeches, the President has been more visible to the public, most especially on social media. These live streams were amplified by media hookups. After decades of no improvement, the RTVM Undersecretary Andanar's watch has also underwent physical renovations and technical upgrade.
After 31 years, kita mo, nagkakaroon na ng pagbabago dito sa Radio Television Malacanang.
And all the hard work and dedication of our employees paid off. For the first time in the history, the PCOO has earned prestigious recognition for its innovations and commitment to public service, especially during these challenging times. Just recently, the PCOO won awards from local award-giving bodies and 8 prestigious international awards from the Stevie Awards in the Asia-Pacific and International Business Awards. The Stevie Awards honored Secretary Martin Andanar and the PCOO for their exemplary work in public service and media, and recognized the role of PCOO's news strategies and platforms such as the virtual presser, reporting tour, PCOO digital campaign, and PCOO documentaries in keeping the Filipino people informed.
Ang responsibilidad ng bawat administrasyon ay masiguro na ang susunod na henerasyon na darating ay mas magaan ang kanilang maging trabaho dahil sa mga reforma na ginawa ng nakaraang administrasyon. And I am very confident na lahat ng mga nagawa ng aking mga kasamahan dito sa PCO, pwedeng ulitin yung achievement nila. And I think that is the biggest legacy of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for the Presidential Communications Operations Office.
The PCOO has proven its reliability, credibility, and dedication to public service with its track record. We have achieved a lot throughout these past years, but our work is not yet over, and we will continue to achieve more in the coming years. The PCOO will always be here and will continue to support and serve the Filipino people through its communications efforts, as well as promote the legacy of the President. As we heal, recover, and rise as one nation from the pandemic, together we can continue to build a better Philippines for the present and future generations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I now proceed?
Go ahead.
Let me now proceed to discuss the Presidential Communications Operations Office proposed 2022 budget. The theme of the PCOO's proposed budget for fiscal year 2022 is communicating the recovery roadmap of the Philippines. This, as more Filipinos are getting vaccinated and more sectors of society are reopened, and we will assure the people that the government is at their backs and that better days are coming for the Philippines. Frank. The proposed budget of the PCOO and its attached agencies for 2022 amounts to 1.91 billion pesos. As we recover as a nation, the amount will be used to communicate to the people how the Duterte administration is laying out the path for resilience and sustainability. At the same time, we will build on the gains of this government for the past 5 years to amplify the pamana ng pagbabago. Sama mo video. Just as what President Rodrigo Duterte said during his final SONA, it is necessary for us to overcome the crippling fear, anxiety, and uncertainty caused by the threat of COVID-19. Hence, there is no better way to quash those worries but to show the people a concrete pathway, not on how we can return to the new normal, but rather gradually step into a new and more resilient society and economy. That is why we are strengthening our one-stop Laging Handa communications platform that has proven itself for the past 2 years. It has given the public extensive, timely, and reliable information for them to prepare for, avoid, and respond to crisis situations such as infectious diseases, man-made disasters, and natural calamities. The agency's proposed 2022 budget is approximately 18% higher than the 1.62 billion peso appropriations this year to continue our mission in being the primary vehicle for consciousness raising, constituency building, and social mobilization in support of the policies, programs, and projects of the presidency, and to serve as a tool for informing, educating, enlightening the citizenry about matters of national importance, for inspiring the citizenry to deepen their civic engagement. Nearly half of this amount will go to personnel services, followed by the maintenance and other operating expenses getting a 38% share, and the capital outlay, which accounts for 16% of the overall agency budget. Getting the lion's share of the proposed budget for next year is the PCOO proper at 740.62 million pesos, followed by the government radio arm, the Bureau of Broadcast Service, getting 456.03 million, then our regional information network, the Philippine Information Agency, getting 333.54 million pesos. The Presidential Broadcast Staff, RTVM, will get the fourth largest piece of the pie at 171.86 million pesos, followed by the News and Information Bureau, Government Newswire at 129.20 million pesos, while the government printing offices, the Bureau of Communication Services, and National Printing Office get 70.59 million and 9.13 million pesos of the 2022 budget, respectively. This slide shows the comparative matrix of the PCOO and its attached agencies' budget for the past 3 fiscal years. Consistently, the PCOO proper, BBS, and the PIA are getting the top 3 biggest allocation in our department. This slide, meanwhile, compares the original 2022 budget proposal submitted to the DBM, which was halved in the National Expenditure Program that the President submitted to Congress. Most of these proposals, which were not considered by the DBM, are capital outlay projects that aim to upgrade our broadcast facilities in Luzon and Visayas, as well as the transportation equipment used for the coverage of presidential events and media operations services. The budgetary support to our government-owned television network for 2022 amounts to 178.63 million pesos, which is nearly a fourth lower than the 234.93 million subsidies to PCOO's GOCCs this year. 104.94 million pesos of this amount will go to the People's Television Network, Incorporated, to support its continuing modernization program to improve its reach and quality of programs. While 73.69 million pesos will go to the Intercontinental Broadcasting Corporation to support its maintenance and other operating expenses. To give you a picture of PTV's reach, here is the heat map of its 15 analog transmitter stations. The darker the shade, the stronger the signal strength. Meanwhile, here are its 6 digital transmitter stations. While we are on the topic, we would also like to show you the Bureau of Broadcast Services AM and FM stations nationwide to highlight the reach of the government to the people. There are 34 stations nationwide, of which 18 are in Luzon, 5 are in Visayas, and 11 are in Mindanao. 29 of the 34 overall PBS stations are currently operating. 10 are in full power, 8 in medium power, and 11 in low power. Meanwhile, there are 5 off-air stations, which are in Baguio, Batanes, Calbayog, CDO, and Tawi-Tawi. DZEG Baguio is off-air due to lightning strike damage, while DWBT Batanes transmitter is currently malfunctioning. Both stations are still currently procuring spare repair equipment. DYOG Calbayog's transmitter, meanwhile, is an old tube-type transmitter that is beyond repair. They have an ongoing procurement process for a 10-kilowatt transmitter, which costs 5 million pesos. DXIM Cagayan de Oro's transmitter have also become obsolete and is also undergoing procurement of spare parts and logistics and related materials. DXDC Tawi-Tawi is off-air due to the installation of the new transmitter, which is already scheduled for delivery. We have a list of priority stations to be upgraded with a total cost of 82.8 million pesos. These stations are DWPE Tuguegarao City, DZMQ Dagupan City, DZAG Agoo, DWRS Tayug, DZSR Manila, DWLC Lucena, DWRM Palawan, DWJS Albay, DWOG Calbayog, DXBN Butuan, DXRG Hingoog, and DXMR Zamboanga City. Shown in this slide are the said radio stations for upgrading with the respective amount required. We will now move on to the PCOO's third GOCC, the APO production unit. The APO production unit remains under the control and supervision of the PCOO for the printing of accountable forms and security printing requirements of the government, such as BIR, tax stamps, and the DFA's e-passport. However, APO as a non-stop, non-profit, and non-chartered GOCC is not covered by EO number 518. This means that it is not required to submit its corporate budget to the DBM for its review and approval. This was confirmed by the DBM in their letter dated January 2, 2020. Since APO production unit is a self-sustaining public enterprise, it does not seek any budget assistance from the national government, hence the zero subsidy in the proposed budget. This slide shows the comparative matrix of the GOCC subsidies for the past 3 years. As can be noted here, it was only in 2019 when the PTV4 received a subsidy for its capital outlay expenditures or projects. This slide also compares the GOCC's original proposal for next year and the approved subsidies as included in the 2022 National Expenditure Program. Again, the DBM did not favorably consider the requested financial assistance for the upgrade of the broadcast infrastructure and equipment of the PTV. All in all, the proposed budget of the PCOO as a department plus the subsidy of our 2 attached GOCCs amounts to 2.09 billion pesos, which is 12.37% higher than the 1.86 billion pesos in this year's appropriations. This slide provides a quick summary of the 2022 budget for each of our attached agencies categorized into personal services, MOOE, and capital outlay. The PCOO and its attached agencies strongly affirm its commitment in bringing nothing but the truth and hope to the nation. The programs, activities, and projects proposed to be funded herein aim to sustain the momentum gained during the last 6 years for the enrichment of the quality of public discourse of all matters of governance in order to build a national consensus thereon. We will continue to converge all its efforts in the Laging Handa platform, especially in communicating the national vaccination program until the Filipino population is protected against COVID-19. Whatever crisis may arise, this strong platform remain relevant as we tell the Filipino people that we will rise again. We will also strengthen our efforts in not only showing the public of the President's legacy, but also to demystify various issues that concern our country. As a premier communications arm of the executive branch, our professional and systematic workflow, along with our bold initiatives, allowed us to start to catch up with private media in the Philippines and the rest of the world. To achieve this goal, the PCOO proper's proposed budget is 47% larger than that of this year. This is because of the four-fold year-on-year increase of the capital outlay, getting a third of the PCOO proper's allocation. This will be poured on the construction of the Visayas Media Hub, an infrastructure flagship project of the administration, and the acquisition of ICT equipment to enhance office productivity as we wade through this evolving digital space. Meanwhile, the PCOO proper's MOOE is for the rental of office space and ICT requirements related to the development of Tri-Media Information Project, reduced spending on local foreign travels and office supplies due to restrictions and adoption of alternative work arrangements brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, and provision of more budget allocation to items which are necessary for our information dissemination efforts, such as advertising expenses. Moreover, let me discuss the PCOO proper's continuing and new projects for 2022. Next year, we will continue the Presidential Communications Program, which aims to achieve public access, engagement, and understanding of presidential policies and government programs, as well as to sustain our priority communications campaign. This includes media operation services such as media accreditation and relations, dissemination of news and photo releases, as well as the provision of coverage arrangements for presidential events and visits. The Freedom of Information Project pursuant to Executive Order Number 2, Series of 2016, and the acquisition of equipment, furniture, and fixtures needed in the operationalization of the Government Communication Academy in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon, which will serve as a training ground for information officers of both the national and local governments. Following your kind accommodation to funding for the future of government communicators, the project is already ongoing with the DPWH procurement for design and construction of the GCA building, which will house a government TV and radio center, as well as housing facilities for personnel and students. This will institutionalize the training hub that will equip public servants with the principles and ethics of journalism while achieving one voice in the government. We expect the completion of the construction of its building as funded under this year's budget come first or second quarter of 2022. 200 million pesos will be for the design and construction of the first phase of the Visayas Media Hub based in Mandaue, Cebu. The broadcast hub will house state-of-the-art equipment and facilities. This is a major step in realizing the triumvirate of main government broadcast hubs in the three main geographical areas of the country, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, following the successful launch of the Mindanao Media Hub in December of 2020. As a complete turnkey infrastructure project in 2022, the centralized and integrated facility will ensure closer coordination and even resource sharing among the government media entities. The tailor-fitted content for the Visayas will in turn result to more effective and wider reach of information dissemination. In fact, with its proposed modern high-definition equipment, the facility will complement our existing analog and digital transmitters in Cebu, Guimaras, Calbayog, Tacloban, and Dumaguete. The original amount proposed for this project is 870 million pesos, intended to be utilized fully in 2022, where 300 million will be for the construction of the building and tower and 570 million for the acquisition of modern and high-definition TV broadcast equipment, facilities, and utilities. However, the TBM only recommended 200 million pesos for the construction of the building, thus including the 12 million proposed for site development, the 88 million for fit out, and the 570 million for broadcast equipment and machinery outlay. The DBM further recommended that the remaining amounts which are not granted may be subject to a multi-year contracting authority, although the details and breakdown of which for the succeeding years are yet to be finalized. Another project proposed for 2022 is the Trimedia Information Project worth 16.42 million pesos. It aims to provide a centralized repository of news and photo releases, speeches and interviews of the President, transcripts of press briefings, and interviews of the presidential spokesperson, PCO secretary, and other government officials for easy research and retrieval, as well as for improved online monitoring, evaluation, trending, notification, and report generation of data concerning the above-mentioned digital electronic files and materials. To this end, materials for systems development and database served upgrade, as well as subscription to database office processing license software shall be procured. Next is the 16.51 million pesos for the additional information and communication technology ICT requirement of the PCO proper. As part of the ICT projects recommended by the Medium-Term Information and Communications Technology Harmonization Initiative Steering Committee under the PCO's updated Information Systems Strategic Plan, new ICT printing equipment and software will be acquired to enable the PCO to ensure that government programs and presidential policies and activities are disseminated in a faster and timely manner to various media outlets. It shall also help establish a more responsive information infrastructure in the dissemination of government news and information to the public, as well as in the discharge of PCO personnel's duties and responsibilities. It will also ensure continuity of service in disseminating news and information to the general public in case of power outages, busted cable, disasters, and other disruptive, unavoidable malfunctions, and help us integrate information source and build up databases that will allow easy access to relevant and timely information and improve electronic links within the PCO. The purchase of these ICT equipment and software will surely augment the capacity and potential reach of our communications campaign. Lastly, 33.95 million pesos will be for the lease of office space and parking slots for the PCO proper. This corresponds to the budgetary requirements for the transfer of the PCO office or offices to a new building to comply with the directive of the Office of the President to vacate the new executive building in Malacañang complex, since it shall be occupied by OP offices or units after its renovation. This project, to be covered by a 5-year contract, will ensure the unhampered operation of the agency and serving as a premier arm of the executive branch in engaging and involving the citizenry and the mass media to enrich the quality of public discourse on all matters of governance. May we note that this year's budget for the payment of our rent at Times Plaza building only came from the savings under the fiscal year 2020 continuing appropriation, since the DBM did not consider our proposal for the purpose last year. In addition, we established a construction committee to look into the possibility of procuring a real property and construction of a building that will be a permanent home of the PCO. Moreover, we will push for 3 key priority legislation next year to enrich our country's vibrant freedom when it comes to information access, along with the welfare and the capacity of our media workers, as well as the transformation of the government broadcast network. These are the Freedom of Information Bill and the Media Workers Welfare Bill and the People's Broadcasting Corporation Act. The Freedom of Information Bill seeks to institutionalize the FOI across all branches of government, directing them to disclose information on projects and other matters that involve public interest. The Media Workers Welfare Bill, meanwhile, seeks to provide media workers more access in terms of security of tenure, adequate health benefits, housing programs, and appropriate hazard and overtime pay, insurance, among others, especially in this difficult time. In spite of its laudable, swift passage in the House of Representatives, we are still awaiting for the Senate to pass such a key legislation on the Duterte administration. The People's Broadcasting Corporation Charter, filed under House Bill numbers 1952, 8001, and 8012, envisions a state television network which will meet international standards that could propel government media to be level with other international broadcasting networks such as BBC of the UK, PBS of the US, and Al Jazeera of Qatar, among others. Through the bill, it will provide independence of the PBC, broadcast hubs in Visayas, Mindanao, and Luzon, and assurance of annual appropriations for at least 10 years. It is our job to deliver accurate and valuable information with excellence, responsibility, and integrity to the Filipino people so that they may be transformed into informed citizens and thought leaders who will partner with us in achieving President Duterte's legacy of providing a secure, comfortable, strongly rooted life for all Filipinos that cascades to future generations. Until then, our primary objective remains: bring hope to our people that better days are coming for the Philippines. That, Your Honors, is our proposed budget for 2022 in a nutshell. Thank you very much for your kind attention, Mr. Chairman, and we are now ready to take your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I will now call the senators to ask their questions. I will start with the Minority Floor Leader out of seniority. Will the Minority Floor Leader pose some questions right away, or would you rather wait for the others? Senator Chilo?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I'm here.
there are no questions from our other colleagues. I have a few questions on Secretary Andanar.
Please proceed, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Secretary, yes, I feel so old to start with because it was your father who was my friend. But you are also a friend. Firstly, your present budget for PCOO proper in 2021 is 502.2 million. In the proposed budget, if this goes up to 740 million, or an increase of 238.3 million, or about 47%. The total increase of PCOO is 293.1 million, of which 283.3, or 81% of the increase of the PCOO budget is lodged into one office, and that is your office, PCOO proper. Can we be benefited, for the record, with an explanation why 83% of the proposed increase of the PCO budget goes to your office, Mr. Secretary Andana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question. Yes, you are correct, Mr. Chairman. The increase is more than 200 million because the 200 million, Mr. Chairman, would be allocated to the Visayas Media Hub project. It's a capital outlay. So hence the substantial increase of the PCOO budget. The Visayas Media Hub, Mr. Chairman, will be the first state-of-the-art media facility that will cover the entire Visayas, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
So this is a capital outlay for the so-called Visayas Media Hub. Is that correct, sir?
200 million, Mr. Chairman, will be for the capital outlay of the Visayas Media Hub.
Okay, and the remaining 38 million of the increase, there is an increase of 238.3. You're saying 200 million of that will be capital outlay. May we know where the balance of 38 million will go?
Mr. Chairman, the balance of that will go to the rental of office space of the Presidential Communications Operations Office because, Mr. Chairman, we were already booted out or kicked out of the national or the new executive building in Malacanang since the office of the president has given us notice that they will be using already the space, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so these are budget for lease payments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now this will not go into what we call job orders, job hires.
Mr. Chairman, on the details of the job hires, but what I am confident that 200 plus the 30 million will go to the rental. Maybe a few million will go to some details. And USEC Chris Ablan, who is my finance USEC, can give you more details on the remaining millions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, just on the maybe I can go to her later, but maybe we can go to your staffing complement, Mr. Secretary. First, is it correct that you have 3,509 regular items in your budget? I repeat, 3,509 regular items in your budget for regular employees.
Mr. Chairman, will you permit me to direct the question to Undersecretary Chris Ablan so that he can answer in more detail, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay?
Oh, just to confirm that first, Mr. Secretary. Tama ba yan? 3,509 po ang inyong regular items?
I don't think so, Mr. Chairman. I don't think it's
staff. You can consult your staff, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yusek Chris Ablan is here, Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Yusek Oblan, please answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer the question of Senator Drilon, we have a total of 3,883 plantilla positions for the PCO family. This includes the PCO proper, RTVM, Bureau of Broadcast Services, Bureau of Communication Services, National Printing Office, News and Information Bureau, Philippine Information Agency, People's Television Network, and
I don't need that all detail, Yusek Ablan. So you're saying again, 3,883,
Mr. Chair.
3,883. Okay. And this is the breakdown. All right. 883. Okay. How many positions are filled, Yusek Ablan? Of the 3,883 plantilla positions, how many are filled up?
Mr. Chair, of the 3,883 positions of the PCO family, 2,107 are currently filled as of 31 August, Mr. Chair.
How many? 3,000?
2,107 as of August 31, Mr. Chair.
3,107 are filled up to 3,883.
2,100, Mr.
Seven.
Senator, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
2,000 po.
2,107 is filled up, is filled up out of a total of 3,883. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. That is correct, sir.
That's roughly 54% would be filled up and 46% would be vacant.
Story.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So how many vacancies do you have?
Mr. Chair, we have a vacancy as of August 31 of 1,776 plantilla positions.
Okay. Now, so you, of the 8,883 plantilla positions, you have filled up 2,107 or 54%, leaving a vacancy rate of vacancies of 1,776 or 46%. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
By the way, how are you related to Roquito?
He is my father, Mr. Chair. I'm his son.
My goodness gracious, I really feel old. It's your fathers of Secretary Andanar and Yusek Ablan, who are friends of mine, and I'm sure also of Senator Gordon.
That is correct.
Anyway, just to put some light moments in this otherwise boring presentation, Mr. Chairman. Anyway, going back. So, how many casuals and job orders do you have? Yusek Ablan.
Yes, Mr. Chair. What we have on the slide right now is our number of contract of service personnel. So,
where is that?
on the right side.
Okay. COS personnel. Medyo malaki yata ito. How many is this? COS personnel. These are both casuals and job orders. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, the civil service has a different classification for job order, but they are intertwined. They are interrelated. Job order and contract of service are more or less the same. The total number, Mr. Chair, of the PCO family is
Don't you respect, Chair?
1,470.
Orders and casuals are not the same under the civil service and under any government plantilla. Come on, Chris. Sorry.
My apologies, Mr.
With
Chair.
the indulgence of Senator Drilon and Senator Gordon. Mali na po eh.
Okay, so thank you, Senator Amy. Okay, can you give us a more accurate answer according to Senator Amy? Your citation of the Civil Service Commission rule, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, what we have are contract of service. So they are different from casual. They are different from contractual. So on the screen, our contract of service is.
Wait, slowly. How many contract of service or job orders do you have? Isa-isahin natin.
Mr. Chair, since I'm the undersecretary for the PCO proper, at this point I can only answer for the PCO proper. For the job orders and contractuals of the other agencies, the heads of agencies will be providing you an answer. If it would be okay, Mr. Chair, I have the numbers for our casual, temporary, contractual, contract of service for PCO
Bigay mo
proper.
muna bago maraming mga ng qualification. Give us the numbers first as it appears on your records. Okay?
Yes, Mr.
How many contract of service, how many casuals, how many whatever you have.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
PCO proper.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For our casual and temporary, we have 3.
Casual and temps you have
3.
3, okay?
Contractual, we have 1.
Contractual, you have 1. Oh, ano pa?
Contract of service on the screen, sir, is 330.
300, ayun. Dito yung mga troll, ano?
Hindi po, wala po kami troll.
Diba? Akala ko masyadong marami. Dito yung mga troll siguro. Hindi ba?
Wala pong troll dyan, Mr. Chair.
Wala kayong troll. Siyempre, hindi mo aaminin na Yusek Ablan na may troll kayo. Yung tatay mo magaling din dyan noon. Nakasama ko pa sa Russia. Magaling din magturo kung sinong KGB. So, tawa ng tawa si Senator Aimio. Alam yung totoo sinasabi ko. Anyway, so you have PCOO proper 330. And what is the total of contract of service personnel in your PCOO family? Yun ang ilagay natin. Ilan ba? Ilan bang trolls mo?
Wala po, again, Mr. Chair. Ang total po...
Okay, kung hindi ayaw mong tawagin na troll, ilan ang job orders mo sa inyong pamilya ng inyong mga ahensya?
Mr. Chair, I do not have data on job order. I have data on contract of service, Mr. Chair.
So, yeah, contract of what is COS? Contract
of service.
Huh?
Contract of service, Mr. Chairman. Contract
of service.
Yes.
Walang COT dito?
Wala pong COT.
Walang COT.
COS lang po.
Sige. Ito COS, otherwise known as COT. Sige, ilan yan?
1,479, Mr. Chair.
Jesus Christ. 1,479 COTs.
COS for the entire
sige, COS. Total, hindi ka naman mapapaamin. I might as well make light of it. Anyway, hindi mo man naaminin na may troll kayo. Anyway, so 1,479 COS in your entire family of the PCOO. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Now, you have 1,776 vacancies, but you hire 1,479 COS. Is that correct? In the entire family is a PCOO family.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
What is the total payroll or contract for this? 1,479.
Let me retrieve the number, Mr. Chair.
Sorry?
Let me retrieve the number, Mr. Chair. We only have...
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I only have the data for fiscal year 2020 for contract of service for PCO proper. It excludes contract of service of the other agencies, Mr. Chair. If it would be okay for the good senator.
Yes. Yung ibang troll agency sa kana iba na.
Yung for 2020, Mr. Chair, the total amount for contract of service was 76 million po.
76 million. And how much is your PS for your plantilla positions that you have filled up? In other words, how much was your payroll for the 2,107 regular items filled up in 2020?
Mr. Chair, I have data on the PCO proper personnel services and the total for the PCO family. For PCO proper, Mr. Chair, the personal services amounts to 117,269,000. For the total of the entire family, Mr. Chair, it's 764,432,000.
Okay, so in the PCOO proper, your PS for the regular positions is 117 million. Your contract hires, or what we call the trolls, is 76 million. Tama po ba yan?
Based on the records, that is correct, Mr. Chair.
Don't you find this a little, how would you, don't you find this a little odd that while you have you have 1,776 vacancies, but you hired 1,476 contract of service, or what we call trolls. And you spent 76 million for these trolls as against your payroll of 117 million. Is this the correct way of using your funds? Why cannot you hire and fill up your unfilled positions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I confirm, Mr. Chair, when I saw the numbers and the data, I found it odd that we had 88 vacant positions. Can I ask the staff to show the chair our slide? I only assumed the undersecretary position for finance in February, Mr. Chair, and undersecretary for administration in April. Since then, Mr. Chair, we have published 62 out of the 88 vacant positions. Out of the 62 published positions, we have already hired 23. 11 are being approved for appointment but have yet to assume office. 17 are under scrap and build. We have one vacant position due to retirement, and we have 12 items under deliberation of the Personnel Selection Board. So under my management, Mr. Chair, as Undersecretary for Administration as of April 2021, and Undersecretary for Finance as February 2021, we have made efforts, Mr. Chair, to fill up the 88 vacant positions.
All right, but before I go any further, would you all your casuals and temporaries would only be 3? Did you say?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
That's only for the PCOO proper.
Yes, Mr. Chair. At this point, I can only speak for the PCO proper, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, because my notes indicate that you have in your family of the PCOO family, there are 121 casuals and 1,415 job order personnel. Apparently, out of this 1,000, you're saying my figure in my research is even lower, because you're saying that in the PCOO proper, you have 1,479. Can you go back to your people and give us a more consolidated numbers on this staffing, both in terms of number of regular employees, number of casuals, number of job orders, both in the PCCO and in your attached or agencies or whatever you have called them. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
That we can have a clearer picture kasi nagahalo-halo eh. Huh? All right.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We do not have trolls, Mr. Chair, but only contract of service.
Yes. Contract of trolls or contract of service are the same. Di ba? Hindi naman.
Hindi po.
Hindi. Okay, sige. Maghahanap pa ako ng ebidensya that you are hiring trolls. Okay, sige. Now, Yusek Ablan, you are as good as your father, by the way, in answering questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay.
I'll take that as a compliment,
Wait,
Mr. Chair.
tatay mo? Ang tatay mo si Alikabok, ang tawag dyan, di ba? Tama ba yan, Amy? Oh, si Alikabok. Oh, sige. Tama, alam mo ba yun? Nang tawag sa tatay mo si Alikabok?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ha?
Yes.
You know that, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
What about you? How are you called?
Just Chris po.
Huh? Chris, yes, Chris. I am entertaining only my good colleague and friend, Senator Amy. She's enjoying our exchange, all right. How many casuals do you intend to hire starting January 2022 under your budget?
Mr. Chair, right now we are reducing the number of contract of service by absorbing many of our contract of service as regular plantilla. But the items are still open for filling up, Mr. Chair. We will return to Senator Drilon with the number after this, Mr. Chair, if it would be okay. But we will have to calculate that, Mr. Chair.
That's okay, but I could not understand what you're saying. Can you be clearer? That time you are not like your father. Your father was always very clear when he explains things.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. We are not yet finished in filling up the vacant items, so I cannot give you a number for January 2022 for our contract of service.
Now, your 1,479 trolls who are now with contract of service, do you intend to continue hiring them in January of 2022?
For our contract of service in PCO proper, Mr. Chair, our intention is to absorb those who are qualified to the 88 vacant items of the PCO proper.
So that you're saying that by January, you will no longer have COS or contract of troll contracts?
Mr. Chair, we do have downloaded funds from our partner agencies like the Philippine Statistics Authority. And the downloading of funds include the hiring of contract of service, which include highly technical personnel. And so yes, Mr. Chair, we will still be hiring contract of service in January 2022 as the contracts or memorandum of agreements with these agencies instruct us to hire our highly technical contract of service, Mr. Chairman.
For purposes of financial planning, how many COS will you have in January, February, March, April, May? Hanggang May lang kasi election sa May eh. Sa 5 buwan na yan, ilang contract of service personnel ang intention ninyong kunin sa inyong ahensya?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have the number for that. We will return to the Senator the data.
If you can return to me later, you can consult and just give me the numbers all we're interested in, okay?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, will you renew the hiring of 1,479 contract of service personnel? And how many more will you hire if you intend to hire now? So I will wait for that, Yusek Ablan. Now, your PS for the current year is 874 million. Is that correct, sir? No. Is that correct or not?
Our PS for the PCO family, Mr. Chair, is 820,951,000 pesos, 2021 GAA.
This is for the entire
entire PCO family.
PCO family, 800, how much?
820 826,951,000 pesos, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, 820. Let's say put 820 million for your and the for the entire PCOO family, what would be the budget for casuals and job orders and trolls?
Definitely, Mr. Chair, no budget for trolls. But,
Okay, no, okay, I'm sorry. For casuals and contract of service, if you want to use that term.
yes, Mr. Chair, we will provide you with the number. I do not have the breakdown right now.
Okay, sige. Now, give me that data.
Excuse me, Senator Dillon.
Yes, sir.
If I may I request the senator to ask the PCOO to submit all the names and the records of the so-called contract of trolls, contract of service.
Yes. In fact, sir, that's in my notes. And if I may just be more precise, Mr. Chairman, we would need and submit to the committee all the names, the addresses, the educational attainment, and the job description of this 1,479 that you have mentioned. Because you're saying these are not roles. So I would like to see their names, their addresses, their educational attainment, their job descriptions of the 1,749 COS and whatever is the other COS in your other agencies. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, with the permission of the minority floor leader.
Yes, sure.
Ano lang ho, just an additional submission. Can they also submit their attendance sheet if they report in the office of the PCOO proper or the other offices?
More accurately, the technical term is daily. Ano yun?
Daily time record. Daily time record. Yes.
Daily time record. Yes, can we have that under Secretary Ablan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We will be providing the names of the contract of service personnel, their position, their place of assignment, the their date of start of engagement period, the date of end of engagement period, as well as their functions and responsibilities, terms of reference, and job description. We will abide by the instruction of the
Yes,
committee.
and also the addresses. The addresses of these people. We will not ask for the date of birth, just the address.
We will confirm, Mr. Chair, with our legal office if we are allowed to disclose the addresses to comply with the Data Privacy Act of 2012.
Other secretary, these are public records and you're asking for
Government employee.
So you better provide us with all the information that we need in order that we will be convinced that this budget is properly used. And among the things that I am asking for, or we are asking for in the committee, is that you give us all the names, all the addresses, all the educational attainments, the job description of each of these 1,700 plus employees, and the other data, the daily service record of these people that they report for work. Obviously, you know why we need this, hindi ba, Mr. Ablano? So don't invoke any confidentiality here, because these are public funds. These are public funds. These are subject to audit. If these are subject to audit, these are subject to scrutiny by the branch of government who is holding the purse. You are asking for appropriation of public funds. We have the right to know how you use these public funds. And as part of our right to know is to make sure that these are not fictitious names, and that the names are performing the jobs. Even if they are trolls, we will accept that as long as they are legitimate and existing Iba yung baka wala namang ganong pangalan na, but you know, we will not ask for the fingerprints of these people, mind you. Hindi naman ganon, ha? So, paki-produce lang, Yusek Ablan, ha? Sumbong
Yes.
sa tayo mo pag hindi mo ginawa ito.
Yes, Mr. Chair, he will turn over the grave if I don't submit it. Actually, Mr. Chair, we already have the document.
Yeah, turn it over to us. Turn it
We will
over
turn it over po.
electronically para,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
okay?
Yes, we will submit it, Mr. Chair.
Sige, okay.
You have to ask them if under oath who hired them.
Senator Marcos, kababayan mo ito.
Oo nga, oo nga.
At saka
Ay,
yung
mapakalim, Chris.
brand nitong ni Senator Gordon, parehong Upsilonia naman yan eh.
Oo nga, kinakapatid ko yan. Pero
Oh.
ganun pa man, if you don't mind po on the same subject matter while we're on a roll requesting information, may I also ask regarding the contractual hires, which by the way, there's a huge difference between job orders or contracts of hire versus casuals or contractuals. Ang laki ng pagbabago niyan dahil unang-una, mula sa budget, yung isa galing sa PS. Yung isa, tinataguan natin at nilalagay sa MOOE. Kaya wag na tayo magbiroan. Alam naman natin yan. Matagal na tayo sa gobyerno, tumanda na tayo dito. So what I would like to ask po, if the chair would allow and with the indulgence of Senator Drilon, maybe also know what are the projects and job descriptions of these employees that are so technical and so specialized that no permanent government employee can possibly perform them. So this is what I needed to understand because I'm completely baffled also by the fact there are no policy guidelines at all on hiring employees. Your contracts of work are very random. They don't appear to have any semblance of uniformity or even the requisite Civil Service Commission regional office approval. Can you also indicate alongside the name of each of these job orders the approval or findings of the CSC? Kasi, di ba, lahat tayo dumadaan sa civil service kahit papano, miski yung job order, hindi naman pwedeng palusutin yan kahit hindi civil service qualified. So, yun lang, kasi masyadong maraming kababalaghan dito na nabanggit mo, yung PSA. Yung PSA, di ba, naglipat ng 94 million yan. Ngayon, sinasabi ninyo na i-hire na lang ninyo yung PSA. Ano ba yon? Yung pera nang galing sa PSA, pupunta sa PCOO, babalik na naman sa PSA through hiring. Medyo nalilito ako. And also, I think you are a lawyer. Why did PCOO have to hire a private lawyer to do its job, even bypassing the SOLGEN? Marami pong tanong tungkol sa human resources ng PCOO. So, thank you na lang kung meron kayong maibigay na information. Thank you, Senator Dre. Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
I would like to ask the PCOO to make sure that the answers are given formally and that they're accurate, and that they be given. We should have a next meeting. We should have that. Also, may I ask also, how long have these people been hired? Are they been hired annually or the previous years? I'd like to get the record of all the previous hires. Job orders, contract of trolls ba o service? Service, ano pa ba? Pwede bang pakibigay nyo lahat yun, please? Previous years, from the time you started hiring. When did you start hiring, Secretary Andarar?
Mr. Chairman, we started...
Every year, how many contractuals are you hiring? Because I find it strange that you're hiring a lot more people in terms of proportion, kahit na one, almost by the thousands, di ba? lumalabas 1,497 ba yun?
479.
1,479. Bakit ganun karami? So can we have that since you started hiring? Can you give an answer? Did you start hiring in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020? Can you give us all these temporary hires? I'll put them under the classification of temporary hires. Maybe you can give the committee something so we can justify it on the floor, because a lot of senators have asked me to ask some of the questions that already were propounded by Senator Drilon. In fact, many of them are so interested that they have asked me to extend the hearing so that they can attend. Do you have an answer, Secretary Andanar, please?
Mr. Chairman, we'll give you a more detailed report. We will submit it to the Secretariat, and we will go back to even before the term of the President, perhaps President Aquino's time.
Yes.
Ms. Marcos, did you have something to say, Senator Marcos?
Yes, following the chairman and Senator Drilon, nalilito nga ako kasi humihingi pa sila ng increase sa budgetary allocation for the employment of regular employees. Hindi nga makilapan, dadagdagan pa. Ba't may ganon?
Sige. So anyway, they will submit all of this data, and we hope that you can submit it before the next hearing so that we can analyze and study it, Mr. Andanar. Anyway, I have a few more questions, Mr. Chairman, with your permission.
Let's go ahead. But I'd like to say that it should not be given on the day of the hearing. We should have our time to peruse it at least 2 days before the hearing. We'll give you enough time. Go ahead, Senator Dillon. Please.
You have a budget for social media in 2020. What is this budget for? Social media is how it is described.
Mr. Chairman, may I defer to USEC Chris Ablan, who has all the numbers.
Yes, also the USEC for administration. You're a lawyer, Mr. Ablan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Where did you finish your law?
UP Diliman, Mr. Chair. College of Law.
In Diliman?
Yes.
You
Yes,
are
Mr. Chair.
you graduated from UP College of Law.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
University of Law, College of the Philippines, sir.
Son of Silonian?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Subject ko ba?
Yes, no excuses.
Yeah.
But I can assure you that your brother, Senator Gordon, will ask all the questions that is need to be asked. Anyway, sige. But okay, just going back, what is this social media budget for?
Let me retrieve our information about the social media expense if you have for 2020, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, with the
Binay.
permission of the minority floor leader, while Yusek Ablan is getting the data, maybe we can ask Secretary Andanar, kung ano ba tong programa nila for social media? What is this all about?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have several programs, not only social media, but including the broadcast and the face-to-face communication plan. Programs like the Duterte Legacy, and each program would have their own strategy. So if you will allow us, Mr. Chairman, to get a more detailed picture of our programs that has a social media component.
Siguro, Mr. Chairman, just offhand, in general, ano ba tong social media? I mean, we don't need the details, but you know, just a general description of what is it all about?
For instance, Mr. Chairman, the Philippine ID system, I think there is a component there where there is budget for boosting on Facebook. I just couldn't give you the exact name of the project, because we have several projects under the PCO, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we would like to see that and examine it more closely for purposes of the next hearing. How much was disbursed in this budget for social media?
Mr. Chairman, we'll have to get.
Was disbursed in 2020?
Mr. Chairman, may I defer again to our USEC for Finance and Admin? He has the list of all of those monies that were disbursed for all the communication operations.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, who can answer that?
I will, Mr. Chair, on behalf of the Secretary.
Yeah, who's speaking, please?
Yusek Ablan po. Just Chris.
Okay. You again. Okay.
Yes.
Sige.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, based on our records in the Finance Office, we do not have a line item budget for social media, but we do spend for social media boosting. I will find the particular expense and we will be submitting it to you, Mr. Chair, on how much we've spent for social media boosting.
Social media boosting. We want to know how much it was in 2020, how much was disbursed, how much is it in the current budget 2021, and how much will you have in 2022? We want that detail, okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We will submit our expense budget for social media boosting. Yes.
Okay. In a very light vein, Mr. Secretary and Yusek Ablan, I was referring to your budget for trolls, and of course, you keep on denying that you have a budget for trolls. We know you will never admit that you have a budget for trolls. So, assuming I take it that you are telling us the truth that you have no budget for trolls. But having said that, do you think we should enact a law which will ban troll farms and penalize those who engage in the troll activities? Should we do that? Would you endorse that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a good idea to enact something like that, or even perhaps go beyond it by penalizing people who spread fake news.
Since you are in this experts in the field of communication, and this inevitably would come, the issue of trolls would come around, and you agree that they should be banned. Can you submit to us a draft bill which would ban and punish the trolls?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, okay. So can we expect that shortly so that we can examine it, and indeed we can say that this comes from the agency suspected, underscored suspected, of having trolls in their budget. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will draft it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also noticed that under PCOO, the biggest allocation for capital outlay is for the construction of a Visayas media hub. Is this correct, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And how much is the capital outlay?
200 million, Mr. Chairman.
And there is also an allocation for operation, MOE, for this Visayas Media Hub.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but that will come in once the building is constructed. So the second phase, Mr. Chairman.
This is you have allocated 50 million for this for your next year's budget. Is that correct?
May I defer to Yusek Ablan for more clarification?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the 50 million is allocated to equip the Government Communications Academy in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon, not the Visayas Media Hub, Mr. Chairman.
I see. So, hindi pa ito sa Visayas Media Hub, sir.
No, Mr. Chair, the 50 million is for the Government Communications Academy in Bukidnon.
I see. All right. Now, what is a Visayas Media Hub? Ako po'y taga Visayas, taga Iloilo ako eh. Pero hindi ko po alam kung ano itong Visayas Media Hub. First, where will this be located? And what is the 200 million capital outlay for?
Chris?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Visayas Media Hub is envisioned to be constructed in Mandaue, Cebu. This will complement the existing Mindanao Media Hub in Davao and our main broadcasting office in Quezon City, Mr. Chair. This will have a TV studio, AM, FM radio studio. In addition to that, the satellite offices of the PCOO and can also be served as a disaster recovery station po.
Okay. So, talagang a complete media communication center. That is the intention. It is called Media Hub, but it's an entire complete communications system, complete with offices, studio, stations, radio stations, etc. Is that correct? Is that how it is?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And so there is an existing one, did you say, in Mindanao? In Mindanao, meron na ba dito?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There's one in Davao City.
There is one in Davao City. When was this constructed, the one in Davao City?
We unveiled it in 2020. I believe it was constructed in 2018 or 19.
So you unveiled. It's now fully operational.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you intend to have another propaganda center in Cebu called Visayas Media Hub. Ganun po ba yun? No. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Huh? So you will be having a propaganda center in Visayas and funding it to the tune of 200 million. By the way, Mr. Secretary Andalan, there is nothing wrong with a propaganda apparatus for the government, because to effectively govern, you must convince our people that you are doing well. Which I must say you are not. You're not succeeding. I mean, not you, but your government is not succeeding. In any case, don't get me wrong. I am not against government telling people what they're doing. We can call it propaganda, unfortunately, but that's what it really is. We just want to know the budgets for this, and indeed you have said that you have a propaganda center in Davao. You have now want another propaganda apparatus in the Visayas with a capital outlay of 200 billion. All right. Now, what is this government operating communications academy in Bukidnon where you have a budget of 50 million? Ano ba ito? Ito ba si Senator Subiri ang magiging announcer niyo or whatever? Want to handle the broadcast phase of this communication? Si Senator Subiri ba ito? Hindi naman.
I object, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Senator Dillon. I object. I thought, you cannot just make him an announcer. He should be a manager, Your Honor.
What?
He should be a manager.
So again, we're trying to enliven this otherwise not so exciting budget. But so ano itong 50 million for Government Communications Academy? Bakit academy? May school ba ito? Will you have, what is this?
Mr. Chairman, it is the
Propaganda apparatus, you have an academy to teach propaganda. Ganun ba yun? Hindi naman.
good propaganda, Mr. Chairman.
Huh?
A good propaganda.
So, seriously now, what is a government communications academy?
Mr. Chairman, it's an academy that will give the tools, give the knowledge, upgrade the skills of our information officers across the archipelago. It is an academy that is working with the Development Academy of the Philippines, the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, and also the Northern Bukidnon State College.
What do you mean? You will have trainees, students? What do you have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Training, Mr. Chairman. Training, short courses.
Okay. Who do you intend to train in this academy? And how long has this been existing? I didn't know that you were running an academy.
Oh, it's just new, Mr. Chairman. It's just been approved last year. Yeah.
It's new. So this is a training ground, a new academy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Is this where you will train trolls? Hindi naman.
Hindi naman po, Mr. Chairman.
Well, gusto ko lang malaman, baka ito yung academy ng mga trolls eh. Ha?
I know, Mr. Senator, last year I already questioned this because I thought that you could very well send the students there to UP. And why are we building a center for that? Because when you become a journalist, you graduate from mass comm or some school like that. But to create another academy is, I think, I don't agree with that. As you know, Mr. Secretary, I didn't agree with that, and I gave you my objections to this idea last year. And you can see,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how much was the budget for this?
50 million. 49.
That's for an additional,
But for operation,
allocation, di ba? Additional allocation yung 50 million.
Yeah, but the actual construction of the building, how much was spent for it?
Senator Binay, may I excuse me? This is an academy. This is a training up to the barangay level, if I suspect. Hindi ba yan? Ganun yun? I mean, this is MOE, Madam Senator. This is not capital outlay.
No, but Senator,
capital outlay for this.
no, I think the building is not yet finished because based on their presentation on, it says here, ongoing DPWH procurement for design and construction.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Senator Binay. Is this a capital outlay, Mr. Andana? Magtatayo ba kayo ng paaralan?
The capital outlay that was given for this year, Mr. Chairman, would be around in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 million pesos, and then the 50 million that is being asked would be for MOE. That's correct, Chris?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Capital outlay, Mr. Chair, for this year to construct the GCA is 79 million. Our request for the 2022 budget is 50 million for MOE to equip the GCA, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So now I'm clarified. Thank you, Senator Binay. This current year, you have 79 million as CO for your academy. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as a capital outlay.
And this is still in the drawing stage of planning or design stage. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Oh, and for next year, you're asking for 50 million MOE. Tama po ba yan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
So hindi pa tapos yung building.
Hindi pa.
Hindi pa nyo na-inaugurate.
Plano pa lang.
Inauguration.
Sir Senator, just a plan according to the Secretary.
The DPWH will start building this year, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Secretary, I think a rational assessment would tell you that these are not urgent projects. Putting up an infrastructure, a building to house an academy uh, for propaganda, and having 50 million again as MOE for propaganda. Mr. Secretary, we have been hearing the budget here for the past several days now, and it is very obvious that we need funds because of the COVID response requirements. Every single peso of resources, dapat ang ating unahin yung COVID, hindi po ba? Dapat mauna yan, yung mga bakuna. Don't you think we can defer this academy for 2023?
You have a good point, Mr. Chairman. The capital outlay for the Government Communication Academy was already deferred in 2020 when the pandemic hit us. The Department of Budget and Management did promise that they will return the money, meaning give it back to the proposed budget, which is the construction of the building. So that's why it was delayed. Instead of constructing it in 2020, we will be constructing it instead this year. But you do have a good point, Mr. Chairman. I think it should be considered, especially the MOE.
Yes, thank you for that openness to the priority of our pandemic response. Certainly, I have already raised questions on the priorities of the budget. And as we go along, we will follow the same tack, not only in PCOO, but in the other agencies. We will be looking at the budgets and see if we can just postpone it for 2023 because we need all the funds now, and certainly projects, activities, and programs which will not suffer if we move it to 2023. We will do so because we need the funds for our COVID response. For example, I think all of us, senators present in this hearing, would agree that the 28 billion for the NTF LCAC is not that urgent that it cannot be postponed for 1 year and use the 28 billion for the ayuda, for the assistance to the poor. This is where I will be personally looking at as to which agencies, which expenses we can defer. And I'm sure that Senator Binay, Senator Marcos, and our chair would go along with this concept because we really need to help our frontliners, especially. Now, okay, is it correct that the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City has already disbursed? First, what is the budget for the Mindanao Hub in Davao City?
Mr. Chairman, may I defer to the general manager of PTV where the money came from.
Is this PTV, Secretary? PTV po ba ito? O
The project, Mr. Chairman, is from PTV.
Okay, sige. So,
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, with the permission again of the minority floor leader, for just for clarification, yung lahat ba ng Media Hub is under PTV or this is separate from PTV?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Binay. The budget for the Mindanao Media Hub came from PTV funds, while this Visayas Media Hub will be a project of the mother agency, PCOO proper.
And then the one of Quezon City? May nabanggit kasi si Yusek Ablan kanina na there's another one in Quezon City.
It's been in existence, Mr. Chairman, as far as I could remember, Marcos time.
Pero the one in Quezon City under PCOO, not under PTV4.
Oh, we don't have a building project in Quezon City, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, you're talking about the one in Mandawi that they want to put up, which is going to cost
Maybe
200 million.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, maybe we can ask Yusek Ablan kasi kanina may nabanggit siya na there's one in Mindanao, in Davao, there's another one in Mandawi, and then there's another one in Quezon City as media hub.
Blan, will you address the question?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Quezon City office is the office of the Philippine Information Agency, which they share with PTV and other PCO offices. It is an existing facility, Mr. Chair. That has been our communications headquarters since what the Secretary mentioned, Marcos time pa po.
Okay, so thank you. So apparently parang blended pala to. Merong PCOO lang, may with PTV4. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the one in Quezon City was run by Minister Sandanya, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So yung the one in Mandawi, bakit hindi na lang under PTV? Para all of them will be under PTV.
Oh, because the budget from the budget allocated for the Visayas Media Hub was the budget that was approved or recommended by the President to the Department of Budget and Management. Thus, sa PCOO proper po, which is a department that is directly under the President.
Okay, thank you.
With the permission of everyone, may I ask Senator Binay to act as chair for the moment because I have to address a certain problem right now. I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay. We'll do that, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I would reconfirm that the good secretary has agreed that our priorities for next year should be our pandemic responses and items in the budget which can be deferred without harming government programs, in other words, which are not urgent, can be deferred for 2023. Among these, for example, would be these budgets for the media hubs. And so we can look at that in more detail at the appropriate time. Because really, as we said, we have to accept the fact that resources are very tight. Our fiscal, our financial position as a country is very tight. Mr. Chairman, it's already 12 noon. We still have a number of, yes, I yield to Senator Marcos.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to take off from our good minority leader, Madam Chairwoman. And I'm a little bit confused by the presentation regarding capital outlay. It's as confusing as the PS and personal services. Out of the 338 million allocations for capital outlay, the biggest share goes to PCOO proper. Earlier, Secretary Martin Andanar said that a total of 740 million has already been obligated or disbursed. The new portion that you are asking from the legislature is the 265.91 million. And this is only PCOO. So I'd like to understand what assets or improvements will be procured by the PCOO proper. Because then this is followed by BBS, which has its own amount. So it's very clear that the bulk of this is going to PCOO proper. All the new expenditures intended for 2022 go to PCOO proper. I would like to know, what is this capital outlay? What are the assets involved? And the breakdown of the 740 that the secretary already said was the compounded amount from previous years. Secretary Andanar, somebody's muted yata.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. May I again defer to Undersecretary Chris Ablan, who is our USEC for Admin and Finance, to be able to give us a more detailed answer, Mr. Chairman.
What falls under PCOO proper? Because we hear of these transformers and transmitters that are ancient and derived from the 1970s, are not functioning properly, and yet most of it in your budget is actually going to PCOO proper and not to this radio and TV provincial stations.
Madam Chair, may I respond to Senator Marcos?
Yes, please.
Sec Ablan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the total request of the PCO for 2022 is 740. For the total number requested by PCO proper is 740,622,000. The
Yes,
breakdown is
I saw that in the chart, but I wanted to know nga, because the new portion of that 740, kasi may GSIS na dyan, di ba? Halo-halo na yan eh. Yung bagong disbursement dyan is 265. Anyway, 740 is worse than 265. It's much, much bigger. It's times 3. Ano ba ang mga assets involved dyan?
Yes, Madam Chair, the 265 million is our capital outlay. It is broken down into the 49.4 million operating requirements for the Government Communications Academy. The 200 million is for the construction of...
Sorry, Chris, I have to stop you right there. You just said that's operating cost. That's MOOE, that's not capital outlay. You just said that's operating cost for the academy.
Yes, Madam Chair. Operating requirements...
Hindi yan assets and improvements. Bakit nasa capital outlay?
Madam Chair, it is recorded as under capital outlay.
Boss, dali na yan. Kasi very magulo na yan talaga. Kasi yung inyo, meron na kayong mga contract of work na alam na natin nasa MOOE. By right, dapat nasa PS yun. May PS cap tayo. Ngayon, dito sa capital outlay, hinahaluan rin ng operating expenses. Parang ang gulo naman yata ng libro natin, boss. Okay, you said 49 million. We have quite a bit to go.
Yes, Madam Chair. 200 million is for the construction of the Visayas Media Hub, and we're requesting. That is correct, and we're requesting for.
I have a question. Why does that fall under PCOO proper? Bakit hindi linagay sa PTV, linagay sa radyo? Bakit hindi sa iba? Kasi doon naman sila talaga.
Madam Chair, the allocation for the 200 million for the Visayas Media Hub to be under the PCOO because it is supposed to be an integrated media hub to include all agencies and GOCCs of the PCOO. We learned from the
I don't think integration costs 200 million. Coordinate lang yan ng mga existing facilities, the TV and radio and the infamous SOCMED.
Yes, Madam Chair, with the Mindanao Media Hub, since it's a project of our People's Television Network, and the other partners of the PCO family are co-equal, we thought it best that the next Media Hub should be under the umbrella of the PCO proper in order for the secretary to properly manage the implementation. So
yes, I understand that operationally that may be correct and that the organization encompasses more than one arm, but the question is, nakakalito yan sa budget. Kasi bakit hindi niyo linagay yan sa radyo at saka sa TV kung yun yung balak? Nagkakaroon tuloy kami ng suspecha na iba ang paggagamitan ng 200 million na yan. Baka naman nandyan yung boosting.
No, Madam Chair. Wala po yung boosting dun sa 200 million. Capital outlay po talaga.
Can you give us a list of the equipment involved or the buildings that you're going to build? Because you said 49 million is operating, 200 million is integrating. All of these are action words that do not involve at any point construction or the supply of equipment.
Madam Chair, we have been confirmed by our budget and accounting division that the recording of the 49 million for the GCA is correctly under capital outlay. We will be providing the committee.
I'm sure it's correct. Ang question lang is ano ba talaga yung mga assets na yon? Senator Drilon, please.
Yes, Senator Marcos, do not forget that next year is an election year. There is a lot of coordination, integration necessary. So, but anyway.
The minority leader is in a particularly naughty mood this morning.
Secretary Antenar and Yusek Ablan have agreed that where certain activities and programs and capital outlay are not that urgent, maybe we can defer it to the budget of 2023 because we need every centavo next year, not only for PCOO but from across the bureaucracy in order to fund our pandemic response budget. As for example, we need 45 billion for booster shots. So we need every item, the budget, our sources of funds, our revenues are not recovering from the pre-pandemic levels, and therefore I would like to think that patriotic as they are, Secretary Ablan and Secretary Andanar would agree that kung magpapaliban natin, ipaliban muna natin, italagay natin sa ayuda ng ating mga kababayan na mahihirap sa panahon ngayon. Salamat po, Mr. Chairman. Ang chairman natin, kumain na ng pananghalian, nawala na eh.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Yusek Ablan and Secretary Martin Andanar agree with that donation. They look particularly unhappy. But having said that, siguro you can give us a breakdown because we cannot understand these assets and equipment. Parang wala naman eh. At saka may 16 million ka pang utang, Chris. Hindi pa kwentas claras dito.
Yes, Madam Chair, we will be submitting. The 16 million, Madam Chair, is for ICT equipment.
Yeah, but you're renting laptops for heaven's sake. Even the COA already flagged the 8 laptops and the supply of 2 cameras all being rented. Paano ba yan? So you're not buying, you're renting. So where is all this capital outlay going to?
Madam Chair, I can assure the good senator that for our proposal 16.5, this will be procurement, Mr. Chair. We will be buying.
But it is the fact that you have been renting cameras as well as laptops, isn't it?
That is correct, Madam Chair. We have been renting, but that is why
appropriately flagged by COA as well as a disgraceful practice for government.
We have received an approval from the MITI under the DICT, Madam Chair, to procure. We have limitations
for the procurement, not the rentals, right, Chris?
Yes, Madam Chair. All procurement for IT-related equipment must go through the MITI program of the DICT.
Yes, of course.
We have been hampered, Madam Chair, with the order. And so finally, Madam Chair, after several years, we finally convinced the DICT to allow us to procure and not to rent because we have been flagged in the past. Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes. I have full support for any investments in engineering, but I'm very puzzled by the direction that the PCOO is taking. Are we going to refurbish and enhance old equipment and facilities, or are we going to be building all these fancy new integrated media hubs in Mindanao, Visayas, and elsewhere? Which brings me to January 2016, when then President Aquino approved the privatization of IBC 13. Back in the 70s, it was the #1 channel, and the Governance Commission on GOCCs, GCG, through a public bidding, was supposed to present a floor price of 10 billion. At present, is the plan still to privatize IBC 13 at a higher price since the upgrade was done? Or is the idea to abandon it? Or are we improving it? Because we have in the past also given money for these stations. Medyo nalilito ako sa inyong direksyon.
Mr. Chairman, may I defer to our IBC Chairman Hexalon Alvarez to answer the question?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, President Alvarez, please.
Yes, actually, Senator Marcos is correct in saying that it should have been privatized. IBC has been scheduled for privatization. Unfortunately, IBC 13 has been so to speak, a bleeding asset of the government for quite some time.
Hindi nga ibenta. Sinabi na ni Presidente Aquino na ibenta na yan. Akala ko nag-bidding na. Di ba 10 billion ang reserve price? What happened? And then, matagal na yun eh.
That's true. That's true, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, it's only now under this current administration that there have been steps or moves to revive the privatization of IBC 13.
What steps have been undertaken to privatize?
Right now, just recently, upon my assumption of office, we've already conducted an
When was
inventory.
that? Sorry.
Just July.
Previous to that, from 2016, wala nangyari. 2016 hanggang 2020
It was actually initiated at 2016, and then the pandemic hit us.
No, layo naman. 2016 eh. Yung pandemic 2020. 5 taon yun.
There was the process, ma'am, was actually initiated from 2016, and it took some time in order to compile all of the inventory nationwide, and most of the equipment that has been inventoried has been either destroyed, or the wear and tear has unfortunately placed IBC in a situation.
President Hex, I'm very familiar with the inventory, the equipment, and the other assets of IBC 13. And I'm fully aware that a lot of it is junk. It's very, very old stuff. So
That's
why
correct.
would it take so long? You just make a list and tell COA that we're selling this for scrap and it's over. Why did it take so long?
Actually, Sen Aimee, if I remember it correctly, since 2016, para every budget hearing, laging sinasabi nila na ipa-privatize.
Correct! Kaya nga
Pero hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin siya napaprivatize.
Pero Nance, every private hearing sinasabi rin natin na napakadaming job order, ang tataas ng sweldo, at very inflated ang number ng ASEC at USEC. Parati naman taon-taon eh, parang naiinip na ako sa sarili ko, mabuti nagpapatawa si Senator Drilon.
Madam Chair, if I may continue my
Yes, please. Yes, please.
with regard to that, PCOO and IBC has already engaged the services previously with the Development Bank of the Philippines, and their observation with regard to this has actually said to set aside the actual privatization process because of the pandemic. But we are still pursuing this. We are still actually pursuing this in spite of the former observations of DBP, and we are trying to get the best possible.
What do you mean the former observations of DBP?
Well, they used to be the transactional.
Sorry, it's just a matter of information.
Yes, they used to be the transactional advisor with regard to the privatization, but this was before my time, and they came up with a observation with regard to setting aside the privatization process.
Setting aside.
Yes.
Why is that? I know so many politicians, political parties, oligarchs who are dying to buy a TV station.
Well, if you would look at currently our the current debt that IBC is in, I really doubt that there would be anyone who would be willing at its current state to purchase IBC in the middle of a pandemic. And this was actually what the Development Bank of the Philippines advised. However,
Because foreign denominated loans, right?
excuse me, Madam Chair, I didn't quite get that.
It has foreign denominated loans.
I'm not aware of the foreign denominated loans. However, I do know
That's
that
why hirap sila dyan. But I am not sure. In any case, sabi nga ni Senator Nancy, sana mabigyan na ng tuldok ito kasi taon-taon na namin naririnig, naiinip na rin kami magtanong. I think Senator Drilon had something to add. How were you raising for your hand po?
Yes, I have one more question to Mr. Alvarez. How do you pronounce your name?
Hexilon.
Hexilon. Your son is
my father used to be Senator Sonny.
yes, Sonny Alvarez, huh? And you sound like your mother, Cecil.
Thank you.
So again, I feel so old because Mr. Ablan, Mr. Alvarez, Mr. Andanar.
Ako din po. Ako din.
Pala, si Madam Senator Binay.
Senator
Your fathers are my contemporaries, by goodness gracious. Anyway, so Mr. Andanar, I'm sorry, but there are still a lot of senators who would want to raise questions, so we have to defer endorsement of your budget, no less than the Senate President has requested us that we should not close the hearings today because he still has a number of questions. So unless my other colleagues would want to ask questions now, maybe we can defer it to some other time. It's already 12:15. Yes. What am I presiding? I'm not supposed to be presiding.
No, Senator Dela,
the committee has been abandoned.
Yeah.
And Amy, are you finished with your questioning,
Yeah,
or can I just interject?
Go ahead, Nancy. Yes.
Okay, just a few questions before we go to our lunch break. For Secretary Andanar, alam naman ho natin na yung PCO is very important, lalo na dun sa COVID-19 information dissemination, right? Like for 2020, how much did you spend for this campaign? For COVID?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the entire 2020, we used the budget, the regular budget allocated to us for 2020. The exact amount, I wouldn't have the numbers with me, but we did not spend anything beyond that was appropriated in our budget. The reason why it was successful was because of our strong partnership with the Kapistanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas, which basically offer their airtime for free.
Actually, Secretary Andanara, I'm sorry, but I have to beg to differ because I don't think successful yung campaign nyo with regards to COVID-19. There's so much disinformation and for example, can you show to the committee yung mga materials that you created for COVID-19 information dissemination?
Oh yes, Mr. Chairman, we can show you. And as far as achievement or success for me is concerned, it's about reaching the farthest barangay of this country in terms of broadcast, which definitely the government media cannot reach. And because of our partnership with the KBP, we're able to inform the public the importance of
Well, for example, like collaterals. Di ba trabaho niyo yung mag-print ng collaterals? Have you printed materials for COVID-19?
We have printed only within our means, but the printing was done mostly by the Department of Health because they have their own budget for this, Mr. Chairman.
So how much was spent for your budget for collaterals?
I would have to, if you allow me, Mr. Chairman, can I submit the exact budget for that of how much was spent because I don't have the numbers with me right now.
Okay. And did you also have collaterals for your campaign against and to local communist armed conflict?
The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict was shouldered by the NTF, the National Task Force, not the PCO.
Sandali, parang, di ba tama po ba, Senator Drilon, di ba technically dapat walang budget ang NTF? Because it's just like it's just a coordinating body.
Yes, it's supposed to be a task force, but they have a budget of 28 billion, and this year they have a budget of 16.5 billion. I do not know. I raise all kinds of questions, but we're just ignored.
So yung mga collaterals, hindi siya taken out of the PCOO budget? It is part of the NTF LCAC budget?
If you look at their presentation, the budget of the NTF LCAC are supposed to be for specific programs, activities, and
Yes, projects.
But I don't really know how this budget is being disbursed, and that we intend to ask when the budget comes before us.
Siguro, Secretary Andanar, kasi dun sa isang presentation that I read, I think PIA, they have a specific program for NTF LCAC.
So maybe I can ask Secretary Andanar, do you contribute to the activities of the NTF LCAC? Do you because in TESDA, for example, their attention was called because they moved part of their budget to NTF LCAC. Is there a similar setup in your shop, Secretary Andanar?
There is no similar arrangement in the PCOO. What we do is provide our technical expertise and our airtime, which is basically an airtime that is also given to other agencies that need the exposure in our government channels.
So, siguro, Secretary, can you submit how much airtime was given for LCAC? How much airtime was given for COVID? Ano pa ba yung other campaign?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll do that.
Na medyo significant yung budget nyo. And then, I know for a fact, I think 2019 budget ba yun or 2020 budget, you had the parang European tour, right?
That's a 2020 budget, Mr. Chairman, but part of the Duterte legacy campaign, but that was a return to the government because of the pandemic.
So this was not utilized for 2020?
Only during the month of February. Then after that, wala na po.
And then for next year's budget, or this year, I would assume wala dahil because of COVID. But for next year,
wala rin po.
So wala na tong European. What was part of that European tour?
Well, it was going to the different embassies and giving them a snapshot of the Duterte legacy, also engaging with the United Nations, also with the Reporters Without Borders and different journalists in Europe.
And how much was spent?
I don't have the exact figure with me, Mr. Chairman, but we can give it to you.
Okay. Baka si Yusek Ablan would know at the moment.
Madam Chair, I do not have the numbers at the moment. We will be submitting the expenses for the Europe caravan po.
Okay. Going back dun sa PIA, because I think PIA is in charge of ad placement and news content, right?
Yes, PIA was in charge of ad placement during the time of President Aquino, but they ceased to implement that charge since the Duterte administration because of some difficulties and also some findings from COA, I
COA.
believe.
So news content na lang sila.
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So who's doing the ad placement?
The ad placements are done by the agencies. Before, kasi they used to download it, but now the agencies themselves. But there's certain projects that they downloaded to the PCOO, like the national ID. For those projects, the PCOO does the procurement.
So yun na lang yung ad placement nyo, yung for the Philippine ID? Wala na kayong ibang ad placement?
National ID, I believe we also have for the Department of Energy, pero hindi ko lang alam kung natuloy yun because of the pandemic. And also the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program of the National Housing Authority.
You did the ad placement, or you're gonna do the ad placement for next year?
We did ad placements for some, but I don't have the exact placements with me. But we can furnish you a copy, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so for next year, hindi nyo pa alam kung ano yung gagawin nyo ng ad placement?
For next year po, well, depending on what projects that will be downloaded to us by the different agencies.
Oh, but at the moment, ang existing lang is the one of national ID.
National
And then
ID,
what's the other one?
The Duterte Legacy Campaign, the National ID, the PSA. But we need to.
Okay.
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
Chairman.
And then dun sa video presentation nyo kanina, parang you show the video, parang you did the video against related dun sa local communist armed conflict, tama? Di ba parang there's a video, you produced a video, right? A documentary. Meron bang something similar with regards to COVID? Not a documentary, but different materials.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. We have a weekly documentary being released about the COVID-19 efforts of the government called Laging Handa.
Hindi ba ano yun? More on parang daily briefer yung Laging Handa. May documentary portion ba yun?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have a documentary portion that we release every week.
Okay, can you submit the materials?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and then going back dun sa boosting, part of the boosting budget ba are personal accounts of PCOO staff?
Can I defer this question to Yusek Chris Ablan or Director Vinci Beltran, who is in charge of the PSA, Mr. Chairman?
Yusek Ablan?
Madam Chair, we defer to Director Vinci Beltran.
Sorry
for
pala.
social media
Director Vinci. Where are you? Yes?
Sorry.
Nasaan ka? Wait, hindi rin kita mahanap.
Ano po? Sorry po, ayaw po mag-on.
Okay. Okay.
Meron po tayong media placements po for the PSA campaign po, and meron po tayong TVC placements po. Nasa around 20 million po tayo doon.
Ano yung 20 million pesos?
Yes po.
For boosting?
Of the PSA po, ad placement po yun.
Okay, ad placement. So, TV and radio to? O SOCMED?
Kunin ko lang po yung exact po na details po in a while po.
Okay. Siguro, Secretary Andanar, ano ulit yung position ni Director Vinci?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, she is a director in my office and heads the special projects.
And what is part of the special projects? The troll. I think, Senator Drilon, the troll is here. Special projects.
No po, ito po yung unit po namin is for the downloaded funds po from other agencies. So, yung mga ginagawa po namin ay related po sa mga campaigns po such as yun nga po PSA and yung iba pa pong projects na may download po like or may mga memorandum of agreement po ang PCOO such as the CFO po. Kami po yung gumagawa po ng mga creative materials po nila.
Ano yung CFO?
Commission on Filipinos Overseas po.
Okay. So si CFO dina-download sa inyo. Siguro, can you just submit? Total may next hearing pa naman eh. Ano yung mga different government agencies na nagda-download sa inyo either for you to provide the materials or for you to do the ad placement or boosting?
Yes po, ma'am.
O kasi kanina parang ang nabanggit lang was for the national ID but apparently yung CFO din pala nagda-download sa inyo ng pondo for their content.
Ma'am, correction na po na yung special projects po, mix po siya ng may download, yung iba po ay memorandum of agreement po. Ang either pwede pong ang dina-download po nila or binibigyan po kami ng access sa mga editing softwares po. So yun lang po yung aming request.
So
Pero yung mga
magkano ngayon si special projects?
Ang pinakamalaki po is the PSA po. Yung total budget po niya ay nasa around 400 million po. Pero distributed po ito sa mga attached agencies. So meron din po ang Radyo Pilipinas, yung PBS po. Meron din po ang RTVM, PNA, Bureau of Communication Services. And tumutulong din po yung ibang pong mga agencies dito. The whole campaign po, hindi lang po si PCOO as mother agency po yung humahawak. Pero yung main po ay nasa admin po sa PCOO.
Wait, so nasa inyo si 400 million?
Distributed po siya sa attached agencies po. Bibigyan po namin po kayo ng breakdown, ma'am.
And then, ano pa yung iba?
Ongoing po yung negotiation po. Meron po halimbawa po yung Department of Energy na e-power mo. So yung mga ganun po na campaigns. Meron po yung Task Force Zero Hunger. Yun pong campaign po natin with PACC, yung Anti-Corruption Project Kasangga.
Magkano? So, can you just give us the total amount and then submit na lang the breakdown for us to study it? Para in the next hearing, we can ask more questions about it.
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes, when I joined that request, Mr. Chairman, this is the request of Senator Binay. Now we are discovering that there are additional budgets from other agencies. So I joined the request of Senator Binay. Can you give us a consolidated list of the additional allocations you have from other agencies so that we will have an idea of how much your total budget is, Mr. Secretary?
Yes. Can we request that, Secretary Andanar? And then, can you also include what entails that contract? TV, ano ba yan? TV, radio, kasama ba yung boosting sa Facebook accounts? Can you also include those details? Check, nakamute ka.
Oh, sorry. And the memorandum of agreement, Mr. Chairman, will give you a copy.
Okay. Hindi. But going back to my question dun sa boosting, are you boosting personal accounts of PCOO family members?
Boosting.
I defer to Director Vinci Beltran, who's the one in charge.
For the PCOO po, for the PSA project po, wala po. Talagang focus lang po yung distribution of the funds. It would focus dun po sa campaign lang po talaga. So, inaantay lang po namin yung approval ng PSA.
Actually, Director Vinci, ang tanong ko, Kasi 'di ba may mga personal 'di ba wala laging issue sa PCOO na nako-commingle yung personal account dun sa official account, 'di ba?
Ano?
Kasi so like meron ba kayong mga account na binu-boost na hindi siya official PCOO account?
Well, for my project po, sa mga projects po under me, wala po.
So there's a possibility there's another office na merong budget. Kasi in your office, there's no budget, but pwedeng merong iba. Tama ba?
Sino?
If I may, Mr. Secretary, SecMart, yung official page po ng PCOO, ang may handle po nito ay si ASEC JV po, Arsena. Ang hawak ko lang po ay mga projects po na downloaded po or yung in cooperation with other agencies. Yun lang po.
So Director Vinci, dun sa mga hawak mong accounts, you boost their page. Kunwari, itong sa National ID, you boost the official page for that campaign. Right?
Yes po, naka-program po siya for boosting.
Okay. So can you provide also that data? I don't know ba kasi Yusek Ablan would probably know kasi di ba kanina na pag-usapan natin yung budget niyo for boosting social media accounts? Can you give us parang a detail kung ano-ano yung mga account na binuboost nyo?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will be submitting. But to answer the query, PCO proper does not boost the personal accounts of any of our officials or employees, Madam Chair.
But do you have kunwari amplification efforts, not necessarily boosting?
Amplification that has expense, none, Madam Chair.
So walang ganon, like or do you have an office that monitors kung ano yung kung kasi I'm sure you have to check kung nagmamansya yung information campaign nyo, di ba? Meron ba kayo monitoring din?
Right now, Madam Chair, our monitoring is what is available by the social media platforms. We have not procured any social media listening tool other than the free ones, Madam Chair.
Okay. So can you just submit to us yung mga campaign nyo and then how successful or not successful yung mga ganung kung ano man yung campaign na ni-run nyo?
Yes, Madam Chair. We will be submitting a report of our campaigns for PCO.
So yung mga, kunwari, yung Twitter account ng PIA or Facebook account, you don't boost that?
PIA, Director General Portadera, Director General Coluping would be able to address if they boost their Twitter accounts po. I'm not familiar po with the PIA. We can defer to DG.
Chair. Am I allowed to?
Yes, you're recognized.
Yes, Madam Chair. We don't have any budget for boosting for our 90 Facebook pages and Twitter accounts. So everything is organic, Madam Chair.
You have 90 pages?
Yes, ma'am, because we do community pages down to the grassroots. So we have a national Facebook page for PIA, and then we have regional pages per region, and then we have pages down to the provincial level, Madam Chair.
Okay. So sa Facebook, you have 90 FB pages, right?
Yes.
Sa Twitter,
we have a central desk for the national PIA, and then we have several Twitter accounts for our regional offices, but that's all, Madam Chair.
Meron ba kayong TikTok? May TikTok ba yung PIA?
Wala
pa.
Wala pa, ma'am.
Wala pa. So FB lang kay Instagram?
Instagram po, meron po, Madam Chair.
So how many accounts in Instagram?
As far as I know, the official is only one, Madam Chair, the central office.
And then the Twitter account is one or regional din?
We have one official for central office. I'll have to check, Madam, if we have for our regional offices. What I'm sure of is that on Facebook, we have presence nationwide.
Okay. Siguro can you just submit to the committee yung staffing requirements ng PIA for all of these accounts?
Yes, ma'am. We will provide, Madam
And then
Chair.
siguro pakisabi na rin kung kung COS ba to or ano ba yan? May permanent plantilla yung nag-handle ng mga account.
We will do, Madam Chair. We will
Okay.
submit.
And PIA also does the content, right?
Yes, ma'am. We curate the content and we distribute the content as well, Madam Chair.
Okay. Siguro for all na lang, Secretary Andanar, can the different departments under PCOO like yung Bureau, BBS, BCS, NIB, PIA, can they submit to the committee yung mga collateral, well, number one, collaterals nila for COVID-19 information campaign? Or siguro submit na lang yung, yung content that they've been producing, whether COVID or yung mga achievements ng Duterte presidency or ano pa ba yung mga ano nyo? Ano ba yung mga major information campaigns nyo? I guess yung LCAC. Tama ba, Secretary Andanar? Yun yung mga milestone projects nyo? What are your milestone information projects?
Yeah, we will do, Mr. Chairman. We will submit it to you.
Okay. Siguro yun na lang muna. I think Senator Pimentel, are you still there? Bomsec, nandiyan pa ba si Senator Pimentel? I think siya na lang yung hindi nakakatanong eh.
I'm back.
I think he was logged out already. I couldn't see his name.
Senator Nancy, I'm back.
Ayan, Senator Gordon is back. I'm done po, Mr. Chairman.
I think we can suspend the hearing until the next time because there are additional hearings that I have to undertake today, such as DFA, and I have a major Red Cross International meeting going on right now. That's why I had to leave a while ago. This is a Southeast Asia Leaders Conference. So, with the indulgence of everybody, I'd like to suspend the hearing until next week.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can we schedule it subject to their submission of all the documents that we asked? Kasi ang hirap naman mag-schedule ng hearing kung hindi pa nila nasasubmit yung mga hiningi namin this morning.
Precisely. So we will ask them to submit within the next 2 or 3 days, after which we will decide when the next hearing will be. Will that be good?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Secretary, the Honorable Secretary of PCOO is requested to submit all the documents requested by all the senators here present. And the chair, the ComSec will please make a report on what documents have to be brought. Secretary Ole, ComSec Secretary Ole, please make sure that you have a report to all the senators of what documents we have requested. And then as soon as we get all those documents within the next, I suppose by Monday, would that be ideal, Mr. Secretary? Would that be ideal for you? Or to submit all the documents requested?
Perhaps
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Chris.
Yes. Secretary Yusek Ablan, are you asking for the floor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, on behalf of the Secretary, may request to submit it by Tuesday. We need to collate the data from the other
Give me all
agencies.
the time we need, but remember that we have to pass the budget. So if you delay, then if there are further delays, then you'll have to pay the penalty of the delay. So Tuesday then. So after that, we can call perhaps a meeting by Friday or at the earliest by Monday next week. That'll be okay, Senator Binay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so let's peg it at Monday, Secretary Olay.
Yes.
Not this Monday, it's kind of Monday, but by Monday next week.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's a very formidable mask you have, and I can't hardly hear you. What did you say?
That is noted, Senator Gordon.
You will have to take off your
Sorry.
ask because nag-iisa ka lang naman ata dyan eh. Unless your boyfriend is there.
Shield.
All right?
Noted. Yes po.
Sorry?
Noted po.
Noted. I mean, that's Senator Pangalina's line. I don't want to be noted. I just want to make sure that it is scheduled. Huh?
Yes,
Are we
yes,
going to be Mr. Fond of using noted? What does that mean? The instructions are very clear. You receive it by Tuesday, you distribute it to all the senators, and by Monday, we call a meeting. Next Monday, right? Not this Monday, but next Monday. That would be September 27th.
Yes, yes.
And the meeting will be at 10 o'clock. All right?
Yes po. Yes po.
Thank you very much. On that note, I'm sorry, I don't think Senator Pimentel is here. I would have wanted to call him, but I would like to thank everybody. We have to go through this rights of budget process. No apologies intended. We just want to make sure that we're very transparent here, as I said preliminarily, and we want to get to the bottom of this because I must tell you that a lot of senators have asked to attend this meeting, and they precisely the questions that are raised by the senators are those questions that have been upsetting some of the senators concerning the budget of PCOO. So let's be forthright so that we can proceed harmoniously into the task of approving the budget of the PCOO. All right. On that note, I hereby suspend the hearing for this aforesaid date of the 27th September at 10 o'clock, with the caveats that the requested documents must be submitted by Tuesday. Thank you all very much, and have the rest of the good afternoon to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Very much.